Welcome to you, Counsel. As you may know, there are workplace harassment allegations made by some public service employees, present and former, against the Governor General of Canada. The Privy Council Office has announced that it will be conducting an independent review of those allegations. In this lecture, we will look into what that review would potentially look like and what are some of the things that the public should watch for in that review process. Please note that this lecture is not legal advice. If you have any specific questions, you should contact a lawyer or a paralegal. The allegations are quite extensive. Fundamentally, they're about yelling, belittling, and publicly humiliating employees. Some employees have already departed. Some employees are on leave of absence. The details of these allegations are contained in the CBC article. I have provided the link. If you are interested, you can review that article. With respect to the review, as I mentioned, Privy Council has announced that it will be launching an independent review. It has also indicated that the Treasury Board policy on workplace harassment would apply in this case. What is that policy? I have provided a link. And then how is an investigation conducted under that policy? There is a guideline that is available, publicly available, and I have provided the link if you are interested in reviewing that. But here is the review process. It is divided into 7 stages under those guidelines. In stage number 1, the investigator or the reviewer will be selected and a mandate for that investigation or review will be provided or will be decided. In stage 2, the investigator will plan the investigation. So in that case, the investigator will decide what kind of documents the investigator will review, what are some of the witnesses that the investigator will interview, and what will be some of the timelines with respect to the investigation or review. In stage 3, the investigator will conduct the investigation. He or she will conduct the interviews, review the documentary evidence. And in stage 4, the reviewer will validate the facts, will prepare a summary of facts, and then that summary is passed on to the office that is administering that particular review or investigation. That office will then pass on the summary of facts to the parties for their review and comments, and the complainants and the accused will have an opportunity to provide comments, and then those comments are sent back to the investigator. Once the investigator decides that no further investigation is needed, the investigator will then complete his or her analysis and provide a conclusion. This will be in an investigation report, which the investigator will then provide to the office that is administering this particular review or investigation. And that office can either accept that report or reject it. But in any event, the investigation report will be provided, a copy will be provided to the complainant and to the accused. In the final stage, there is an administrative closure. So whatever has been the outcome of the investigation, whether it leads to any disciplinary action or any other action, that will be taken, and then the investigation or the review will be completed. What I want to highlight is that in this review, the process is really more important than the outcome of the investigation. These are only the allegations. They may be proven to be correct or they may be proven to be wrong. But how does Privy Council and the investigator go about conducting the review is more important than anything else. There are 3 things that I suggest are important in this process. Number 1 is selecting the right investigator. Now, there is a fundamental principle that justice must not only be done, but seen to be done. And that principle is important, especially because these are allegations against the highest office in the country. So it is very important that the choice of the investigator or the reviewer is made appropriately so that there is no situation where there may be any apprehension of bias, there may be any potential conflict of interest of any kind. Another important principle in the procedural fairness, it's a Latin maxim called nemo judex causa sua. No one is a judge in his own cause. What this means is that any person who may have any stakes in the investigation process, in the review process, is not an appropriate person to conduct that investigation. So it is important to keep those principles in mind. And then these principles would inform the decision whether the investigator, the reviewer, should be an internal reviewer from the government or should be an external investigator. Also, it is not only important to consider who is selected as the investigator, but also who decides which investigator would be selected to conduct this review. So for example, it wouldn't make any sense for the Governor General herself to decide who will be the investigator. It may not be appropriate for her office to decide or have any input in deciding who may be an appropriate investigator. And similarly, the complainants, the employees who have raised these allegations, cannot decide who will be the investigator. It is important that these procedural elements are considered in selecting the right investigator, right reviewer for this review. Also, it is very important to decide what is the appropriate scope of the review, and it is crucial because the scope of the review could be as narrow as simply putting on a number of specific allegations before the investigator and asking the investigator to make a factual finding whether those allegations are true or false. Or the scope of the investigation could be much broader and it may look into potential systemic issues. Considering the nature of issues that are potentially at hand. So for instance, it is stated that multiple employees allegedly suffered bullying and harassment. Also, there are allegations of lack of accountability at the office, and then appropriate safeguards for the employees. And then also there was a survey in 2019, Public Service Employee Survey, which suggested that there was a high level of harassment and re-to-haul. So if all of these facts are to be considered, the suggestion I would make is that the scope of the review or investigation has to be broader than just the simple review of the factual allegations. And thirdly, it is important to consider the timeline. All investigations need to be commenced in as quickly as possible, and they need to be completed as quickly as possible, obviously making sure that the investigation or the review is complete and thorough. These allegations are against the highest office in the country, and how the government conducts its review would show whether the government takes the issues of workplace harassment seriously. Thank you for watching.